require a lot of, additional digestion. It's pretty much table ready. And so anyway, I sent it to Joel and some other folks, and they came back with some comments for her. And in the meantime, we kind of thought, well, maybe she'd like to just kind of explain the whole process to us here in this group. So that's kind of where we're at, and hopefully we've been a help to her. I'll let her either tell us we're a help or not. Meryl, so I'm just handing it off to you because I'll probably
All
bumble
right.
it if I talk much longer. So
Sure. Guys, hi. I'm so excited that you guys are excited enough about this that you were like, let's talk to her. I am delighted. My name is Meryl Kemp Wilcox. A little context, I'm the executive director of the Pima JTED Foundation. We're the nonprofit that is associated with the JTED for our region. We cover all of Pima County, just a little. Mammoth Samuel is our district up in southern Pinal County, and then we go down to Nogales. I am not from Eloy. I actually am pretty new to Arizona. My husband and I moved out here 3 years ago. He's at the university. And my background is in education policy work. We came here from Georgia. Um, I worked with a sort of a policy house that was trying to improve outcomes in the state of Georgia. And Georgia is very similar in some ways to Arizona in that Atlanta really sucks up all the oxygen in the room. Um,
we
and
know
if
we know
you,
what that means. We know what that means.
right. And my role was to, and if you're a statewide organization and you're based in the city, you have to be very intentional about having any idea what's going on anywhere else because you won't know if you weren't out there looking for it. And so my role was very much our rural outreach and community-based projects, trying to make sure we had any idea what was going on in what we like to call not Atlanta.
Well,
Um,
we call it the state of Maricopa.
yeah, I've learned that one. I've learned that one. And so I'm just really, for those reasons, I'm really excited to be connecting with you guys because this is, if we're going to try and make a framework that passes muster, it really needs to pass muster for everybody. Um, a little context over how I came to this project. So JTED, it does career and technical education, right? That's what they do. They're the CTED in our region. This is a little bit of a different hat. We got connected with the Canada Arizona Business Council, which is a statewide framework of apparently, I didn't know this. Canada has a big footprint here in Arizona. And so there's a group of people who are all Canadian connected companies and they get together and work on things that affect everybody. And so they have a whole big arm that's around water and a whole big arm that's around tourism and snowbirds and a whole big arm that's around energy. And we were connected with their CEO, which is Glenn Williamson, and he said, one of the other really big limiting factors for business and industry, and I know I don't have to tell you guys this because you're the Business and Education Council, but it's workforce. And people in the business space don't understand the education space. I think that that absolutely goes vice versa as well. He said, we know that there needs to be long-term plans to make solutions for a robust and fully functioning and non-leaking workforce pipeline, but we don't know how to do it. And so people just keep walking up to us and they're like, if you gave us $1 million, we'd solve it for you. But we don't know if that's true or not. And no one's been able to do it yet. And how does it work and whatever. And so I was like, because I'm a policy nerd. I'm like, oh, there are strategies. There are solutions. There are things that we do know. There are milestones that matter. Um, there are proven ways to sort of effectively impact them. But we in the education space don't always do a very good job of speaking to those points in business ease. And business doesn't understand or care about all of the nuts and bolts. They're like, what do we do? How do we fix it? What's the problem? What do you need? Sum it up, right? And so there's just an awful lot of sort of cross communication. So where that went after our, needless to say, Glenn was like, well, then you do it. So I am now the chairperson of Project Workforce, which is one of their subcommittee groups, along with Project Energy and Project Snowbird and all these things. Uh, and I really appreciate the framing that they have given. If you're in the education space, you know this is not a quick fix. Um, I'm looking at Dawn, who works in early childhood, which is consistently the most impactful space you can make a difference. But that person is not going to become a member of the workforce for 20 years. And so businesses are like, what do you want me to babysit cute kids? What are you even saying to me? Uh, but the framework that they sort of gave was, look, we have a 20-year plan for water, don't we? We have a 20-year plan for energy. So we need a 20-year plan for education. And I am like, hallelujah, because we do need a 20-year plan for education. But the challenge for us has been, and this is where we came to Craig to be like, please put this in front of your people. How do we say the things that those of us who are in the education space know? And it's not wishes and dreams. It's like we have longitudinal data. The research is unequivocal. We know things like the third grade reading, things like eighth grade math, things like high school graduation, things like early childhood. We know these things that matter, these levers we can pull. How do we say them clearly to a business audience who is not interested in becoming a big education policy wonk? And they do need to understand, they have immediate needs, right? So some of it is like, I can't focus on what's 15 years down the road. I need to know what we're doing today. But they just are so unfamiliar with this world, they don't know how to talk about it. And in the education space, we often don't know how to prep them to talk about it. So all of that was the background that went behind trying to build out a meaningful, accessible, the 20-year framework for industry. All right. This is not for those of us who are already in the fold and have drank the Kool-Aid and we understand that you need to fund education and pay teachers and take care of kids and blah, 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 blah. But to say to business, you have workforce needs, there are solutions. There are solutions. And you should understand what the lay of the land is and go forward and execute on them just like you do in other places, just like you take care of any other of your supply chain issues. This is a supply chain issue. And you have all the levers at home because it's your local supply chain. So, all of that, any questions on any of that? That's sort of where all this came from.
Yeah, I know. It was a conversation actually that I had with Glenn and with his executive assistant, and then they sent me. They hooked us up electronically, and so yeah, and you're right, because I've been in a lot of different education formats where, like, I led the Arizona Mayor's Education Foundation, but even me being the only business guy in the room, even though I was not the only mayor. There aren't a lot of mayors that are business people and have that kind of background, and so it was like we were all talking. They were all talking to each other, and nobody was talking to industry or business. And so, to your point, hopefully that's what this can help us do, right? This helps us talk to business and industry. Like the mining industry. I mean, that's huge, and they should be part of this conversation.
Absolutely. And mining, I think, is a really interesting sector in general because those mines have generational time horizons. I mean, they need their workforce today, but they're making a plan for 60 years from now, we're going to need a workforce. And so that speaks to sort of upstream interventions all along the birth through, not
Yeah,
even K, birth through 16, like
yeah,
the whole pipeline, in a way that I think that in those spaces, it's easier to have the conversations than it is even with some of our, in like semiconductor, they know how many people they're going to need, but they need them today. They need them today and tomorrow. And they're like, I am not prepared to have a conversation about Dawn's kids being in the pipeline and ready today, right? And I'm like, okay, I get that. But mines, they're built with that long time horizon. I did want to, so here's sort of where we are. I have a little bit, I have the like most cursory of a presentation, and then we have our draft of what we've sort of built so far. Um, and this is my ask is I would love any and all feedback that you guys have on this because none of this works unless it works. I mean, like, no one cares about Meryl's vision, right? We need solutions that have a
You
broad
need
group
it.
of people behind
Yeah,
them.
you need an actionable project here. And
Absolutely.
I know that uh Mr. Clegg had given you some response. I know Joel had responded. You got a
Thank
couple,
you.
you got several responses, I think, back from folks. So
And like such good responses. Very insightful. Thank you. I'm gonna, if I can figure out how to do it, I'm gonna share this guy. We can see this?
it's coming. There it is.
Okay. So just again, like real quick. Um, this is, oh, let me hide this. Can I hide this? Floating meeting controls. Okay. So this is kind of the vision, and this is a space. This is the image that's in the thing that we, the draft that we built, and I have found this to be pretty impactful for when we talk to industry and they say, I know that I have talent shortages, I know that I have needs, I know that I have unfilled positions and I have people getting ready to retire. And so I know that I'm going to continue to have needs. This is the side of it that they often don't know anything about. They say, oh, we built a program with the University of Arizona. Oh, we're at ASU with this. Oh, we have a quick start program at the community college. And what they don't know is that the data shows that more than like two-thirds of students never, local students, never set foot on a community college. What you're looking at here is if you have 100 students who walk in the door in
Only
the
half,
K-12 system,
looks like half of them actually get to post secondary.
half of the 74 who graduate from high school. Now
Yeah.
that 74 number, I think that this is my Arizona, state of Arizona
Yeah,
data.
that's pretty close.
Yeah. So you got 37 who never walk onto the campus. You have an additional 26 who don't even cross the stage at high school graduation. So the biggest leaks in this local pipeline, birth to work, happen way before any kind of post-secondary. Now, post-secondary is not necessarily kicking it out of the park, but I'll also tell you those numbers are my fuzziest because I'm trying to be like, okay, you get this many. I get the graduation rate at the university system, but the graduation rate at community colleges is always a lot lower. And where, you know, how many are here versus there, and I don't, that's fuzzier. It's my best faith effort. Um, but out of your 100 students who walk in, 26 drop out before they graduate high school. 37 never make it onto post-secondary, about half of those who do complete. And so if your only interventions are interacting in the post-secondary space and you are trying to go to scale, like if you're trying to go from 20 employees to 23 employees, that's fine. But if you're trying to, like for a sector, if you're trying to go from 20 employees to 200 employees or 2,000 employees, you just
Good luck.
have to
Good luck.
have upstream interventions, or you have to import them all. If you can get them to come from Wisconsin, you go right ahead. But if you're talking about technician level jobs, which a lot of the growth in our state, that's the space it's in. It's a lot harder to make you're not offering a relocation bonus to get your new guy on the line in the manufacturing floor, right? So that's just a harder ask.
And
We're also looking at, go ahead.
just a quick clarification, because I love this graphic here. Just to clarify, you mentioned that when you were developing the 20-year plan, you had as a target the industry partners more than the people in the weeds. How do they react to something like this? I know that was a good example about
Sure.
Dawn and Well, early childhood, they're not in our front of our door till this time, but when they see a graphic like this, are they noticing that it's just a
It's
cascading waterfall one to the other? And you're
it's
hoping to get the
interesting.
advocacy part of it from them? Is that kind of what the hope?
Think yes, I think two things. I think there is absolutely a space for direct engagement on some of the milestones that matter that make a difference in this leaking pipeline. And then I think the advocacy piece is a huge piece of it because historically, what I have seen, and you guys know better than me, I have only been here for 3 years, but I think it's not unique to Arizona, is that folks don't want to dip their toes in the school fight because schools, they don't want to get crossways with the school choice movement for lots of good reasons. There's a lot of support for school choice, but is there the same support for not building, like, what are you funding and where's the accountability? And I'm not trying to get into that one way or the other, but like there is not a lot of accountability in the current voucher system, and that's undermining some of the funding that goes to K-12, um, or the
Twenty
public
percent,
K-12.
20%, they say now.
What is interesting, my line for this is if 90% of your workforce gets to your job every day on the city bus, you don't have to ride the city bus. But it is in your best interest to make sure the city bus runs and runs on time. And 90% of the students in K through 12 in the state of Arizona are in or public schools or charter schools. And those are just the numbers. And so if that's what's delivering the workforce, we need to make sure that you don't have to use it, but you need that bus to run on time. And so but I think that much of this, Joel, to really answer your question, people don't know. So what part of what frames my approach to this is that we had a governor in Georgia, a Republican governor, very pro-business, very beloved, and his wife was big into education. And so they would talk about it. He did 2 terms. And by the time he was done, you could walk into any chamber of commerce way down the pig trails in South Georgia, and you could say, hey, what's your local birth through 8 literacy plan at the Chamber of Commerce? And they had an answer for you. Because he went out and made the argument that early literacy is workforce development and economic development, which the data supports, but like a trusted person went out and championed it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
If you back into these numbers, let's see if I did this right. Let's break down where that 100 of those 100 who are in, high school, they all came from somewhere. And this is our state data. It says about 32 of them participated in quality early learning. About 39 of them achieved literacy on grade level by 3rd grade. 28 had 8th grade numeracy at math. About 43 of them participate in some kind of career and technical education. And you sort of see that carry through, right? Like, if you're a big ed policy nerd, you know that those are the milestones that have the highest impact down the road on actual outcomes. And if you are not, and this is where also to answer your question, Joel, because it is hard to have the conversation with a room full of CEOs about why they need to invest in 3rd grade literacy. And they also, it's not necessarily hard to make the argument, but they're like, what are you asking me to do? Because I'm not gonna open a whole new department of literacy at my manufacturing plant, right? My mine is not going to send, part of your job duties are to go read books to 2nd graders. Like that's not going to be the thing. And so one of the things that we are trying to build into this long-term vision is what are the steps you can take that are in your lane as an industry person, as a business person. We're not trying to get anybody out of their lane. But how would you behave in your lane if you did know these things and if you were invested in pulling these levers? And so we're trying to make sure people know these things, understand that they can pull these levers, and then figure out how. And that's my big like takeaway here is that what I hope that business gets out of this is my Merrill, it's not going to go in the final report. This is my fast and loose, like what I'm trying to get the take home message to be. Education is directly impacting your most significant goals and driving needs. You should understand how. There are solutions. You should know what they are. You should have and exercise an informed opinion on them. And you should support and demand support for the interventions that matter, that have a track record. I put CTE in there because I work for a CTED, so of course that's always going to be part of my spiel. But I'll be the first to tell you, like birth through 8, early childhood, early literacy, early, like all of our students come to us from somewhere, right? And all of them go from us to somewhere. So then I did want to also bring up the thing itself. All of that was like an awful lot of context behind this thing that we built. And this is where I need you guys. I need other people to be like, you've really talked for too long and you lost me. You had me at this. You could have stopped there. Like, how do we pull this vision together in a way that is accessible and actionable for an industry and a business community? Those are like I think that you guys are all, I saw heads nodding, like we got the framework. How do we make it something that industry is going to go, okay, cool, great. What do I do? You need me to do A, B, and C. I'm on it or I'm not, you know?
Meryl, this is Rena. I'm just fresh off of a Department of Education seminar we had last week, and Joel and Evelyn and some of the people on this call attended that. And there was a real interesting thing that bubbled up when we were all together, and there were employers there, there were teachers there, and the teachers got up and said, "We can't find the people at the businesses that will help us connect and help with getting our kids connected with them in terms of training or tours or whatever." And the business people got up and said, "Wait a minute." We're
Yep.
always reaching out, and no one ever gets back to us. So one of the
Yes.
things, the disconnects we seem to get every time we're at these meetings, and it happened at our education summit too, right, Joel, is we're talking to the wrong people all the time. We're not, Joel, I mean, bends over backwards to get a wealth of information out. It lands at the superintendents, it lands with the principals, and it goes no further.
Mm,
The employers, I think they are frustrated because they want to connect directly with the teachers, but they have to go through all the administrative
right.
levels to get to the teachers. And by the time that happens and nobody calls them back, they give up. So that is a dysfunction in my mind. And I've heard it so many times. It's like, can't we figure this out and get to our target audience? I mean, marketing is my thing. So who's our target audience and how do we communicate directly with them instead of going through these layers
And
of
Rena,
people?
I will say too, though, that it goes both ways.
No, I agree. And we've
It's
heard it from
business and
both
it's
groups.
education. And you're right that there always seems to be the difficult part is finding the right person to talk to.
Right. And as Meryl has brought up, you got to have a champion. So
Right.
who's that champion that is going to follow through and make sure that the right people are talking to each other? I think that's one of the big question marks in my mind in terms of how do we connect the right people?
Yeah, and Jay has his hand up. I got a couple hands up. They have questions too, Meryl.
Yeah. Well, first I want to give kudos to Rena about what she's talking about there about exactly what's going on. And I think we've got education brains and we've got workforce brains, and they are not speaking the same language. And this has been going on for a long, long time. We've seen that a lot. But one thing I wanted to mention to you, Meryl, that we did a survey in rural Arizona, this going back about 2 years ago, and one of our key areas was Pinal County. And we went back and said, well, now we've got this data on workforce development, what youth and young people think about us. So then what do we do with it? And one of the things we did is we went to Globe Unified School District and said, here's what your students are saying that they believe this happening in workforce development. And as we went through different types of resources and support that teachers could be using in their classrooms today, they had no concept of that. They had no idea that some of these things even existed.
Mm.
And by having the ability to have that conversation with those teachers in the room, it was like this aha moment. And we pulled everything from Education Forward and our data and all kinds of data that was in there just to make sure that we had the ability to really share with them a whole picture. And if there's anything that be done, I think with the work that we're talking about here, it's about building relationships that are going to be an ongoing conversation rather than a one and done, or they came to my classroom, they gave me this good stuff, and my kids are going to be welders now, or whatever it is. And I see the Department of Ed doing that with workforce development. They're having different sessions all over the state, from adult ed to CTE, and doing that. You've got community colleges listening to that. We've got the K-12 partners coming in. But I think looking at it holistically, it does take, it takes a village, what they always say about a kid, right? It takes a village. It's going to take a village to get our education and workforce brains in the same space.
Can you tell me who was behind the survey and the project in Globe?
So the survey was done by Local First Arizona. I was
Good.
one of the leads on that. There were 4 areas that we looked at, northeastern and northwestern Arizona. Pinal County had a substantial number of individuals that were there, so we specifically did that. I'll put the report in the chat box there. You can look at it when you get a chance. It's very long, but we kind of brought it down for our workforce development partners as well as our education partners. And it really started good conversation because it was talking about their kids and their communities and what they said. And one thing that came out of that is 80% of the youth that were in this said there are no good jobs in my community.
Wow.
80% of them said that. And I've got to leave my community to get a good job. And there's a lot of misnomers out there that kids believe. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Don?
I was just going to piggyback on what Rena was talking about making connections with the programs. So I actually go into the high schools and I'm trying to connect with the CTE programs and support them. And I've connected with one district and I've gone through 3 teachers now. One retired as soon as I got there, one then left halfway through the year. So those are also issues that we're dealing with, especially when we're talking about CTE programs. And for early childhood, it's extremely difficult to find anyone who's qualified in early childhood, and knows early childhood to be a CTE instructor. Usually they have a K-12 education and that qualifies them for early childhood. And I just went down and judged the FCCLA competitions, the student organization competitions last week. And I judged the early childhood one, and the disconnect between what is appropriate for early childhood and not, it was shocking. And so, I started thinking about what can we now start to do to help those CTE instructors to really understand child development and expectations of children at ages, because there was one student who 2 hours to show video and to lecture to a 2 or 3-year-old.
Might be a good way to get them to go to sleep.
It
It's,
would
in my
be
house,
something.
in my house, that's a good way to get them to act out and go crazy.
Yeah, if somebody's talking to me that long, even me, I'm like, hey, like I'm the one already getting in trouble for talking. So yeah, that I think, and being able to, we have workforce issues at all levels. So thinking now about how can we train up some of our current workforce to be the leaders of tomorrow, because I knew the leaders that came before me and they knew me. I don't know the leaders that are coming after me in early childhood. And really starting to think, how can we be intentional about building those pipelines too?
I think Katrina has her hand up too.
Hi, sorry I was late if you guys did introductions. My name is Katrina Davini. I'm the regional specialist in Pinal County for First Things First. So also early childhood, we are the only agency focused solely on early childhood. And our funding is declining. If anybody hasn't received that notification, people are not smoking, they're vaping. Our bill got killed this go around to add the tobacco tax to vaping products to stabilize early childhood funding. So anyway, through all of that work, Meryl, I put the link in. They've done a lot of work. My government affairs team has done a lot of work on how we talk to businesses and how we get businesses to understand. And so there's a wealth of resources and information on that link that I sent to you, including a brilliant calculator that if you put in the number of employees that you have, you can actually show the financial impact to a business that doesn't support early childhood or children and family policies, that doesn't support their workforce in finding childcare or time off when a child is sick, those family-friendly policies that we promote. So you can actually show them the financial impact if they're losing. Everywhere I go nowadays, I hear we just lost another person because they couldn't find childcare. We just lost another person because we couldn't find childcare. So just the childcare piece it's crumbling. And if you're having a problem finding a workforce, this is part of the problem. And it's also part of the problem why older kids are being held out of school. Your high schoolers are staying home to take care of younger children. So it's just a pivotal piece, but there's a lot of resources there if you want to add it to your repertoire of how you talk to businesses more fit for all of education, not just early childhood. But know that we are out there talking to businesses in Pinal heavily. That's a lot of my new role. We just went through a downsizing reorganization. So that's what I will be doing, is engaging those that don't think this is their problem.
That's wonderful to hear. And thank you for sharing those resources. Early childhood is this really interesting space where you can get businesses to listen because it impacts mom and dad right now. And it also plants the seeds for like little Junior to be successful in school and have the right brain development and be okay later on. It's interesting. It has really been my experience that, exactly what you guys are saying. In the education space, we talk right past business. And business is like, I don't even know what you're saying to me, but if you can say it right, they're like, got it. Right? If you are manufacturing something, then you understand how systems work, right? If you are doing, you understand logistics, you understand supply chain. It's similar concepts. But it is work to figure out how to. One of the other things that we have seen, and I've seen this a fair amount, is that business will get frustrated because they don't have solutions, and then they'll make their own, and they'll put resources into it because it's worked, right? And so they develop their training, and they develop a curriculum, and they develop day in the life videos, and they develop whatever. And then they hand it to schools, and schools are like, I can't use this. It's not the right format. It doesn't follow what our lessons need to look like. It doesn't align with the scope and sequence we need to follow for ADE. And business is like, I am so done with you. And it's because we talk past each other a lot. And so one of the things that I am trying to do, and I think that you've all seen the draft, but I'll pull it up on the screen.
Yeah, that'd be good. That would be good to pull it up.
Yeah. While you're doing that really quick, just a question. I kind of feel like sometimes the ADE gatekeeps some of the curriculum and some of the information, because I know there's like a statewide consortium that holds a curriculum for, I think, for early childhood. I don't know if it's for other, but having access to that so that we could understand what those lessons are that they're supposed to be teaching and the sequence. And that's one of the things that one of my first questions to CCE instructors are, what are the topics you're going to be teaching and when, so that I can make connections for you and bring partners in as, resources and work with the students. And sometimes it's difficult for them to get that back to me. So if I had it already, and I had the lessons and I could align with the system, then I could
Short
be
answer.
a go-between.
The short answer to that, Dawn, is that what ADE, what if you're trying to be to interact with a CTE class that's doing early childhood, ADE has a published list of standards that you have to hit in that class, topics you need to cover, but there is not a universal curriculum. And so where it is, you can look it over and say, hi, I could bring in somebody who would hit standard 2 and hit standard 4 for you and take it right off your plate. I'll knock it out. I'll bring somebody in, we'll do whatever. But everybody's classroom is going to look different in terms of how they actually build their lessons. So it's hard. And this goes back to, I mean, I think Craig, you were talking about this, and like, no one calls you back. If you call, you reach out to schools, and you do, the superintendent says, sounds great, but then the teachers are overwhelmed and doing 90,000 million different things, and they aren't always judged on how well they interact with business. That's like, it would be great, feather in the cap, sounds good. Especially if you brought in money, it would be even more better. But there's not, it's all just like, yeah, do that too. But what you're held accountable to is this other stuff. And so it becomes difficult. That's one of the places that we try and stand locally because we are at a crossroads between the K-12 space and industry. That like we have 14 member districts. And so if Raytheon comes to me and says, we want to build out a workforce pipeline, I can be the clearinghouse who gets all of the engineering programs across our district. And I can handhold that relationship until it manifests into, okay, there's now a plan in place and it runs and they're going to do guest speaking and there's going to be a tour and there's going to whatever. But if you just call your local high school, you might get the right person, you might get the wrong person, right? And it just is a resource tight environment. It is lean. It's rough. And so there aren't even, we have our little, here's our wish list of our dream of what it could be like over time. But it's hard. Who owns it was one of the questions I think that Joel asked when you sent me some feedback of like, this is interesting, but like,
Who owns it?
yeah, where does this live? One of the things that we are trying, that the hope is that if an entity like the Canada Arizona Business Council that has 500 members or something ridiculous like that, that has a presence across all corners of the state, and if they can get behind something like this, that's like, we're planting a flag. We understand here, these are the outcomes that matter. And here's some guidance you've seen this, over how to approach them. And we're going to do some of that. Then can there be some momentum behind it? Can there be some more? Can you end up being able to walk up to any industry and say, what's your early literacy plan? And they'll have some, do you have a strategy there? And they'll either say yes, or they'll say no, but so-and-so's doing that. We're really focused on the 8th grade math or whatever it is.
And Meryl, since you have it up there, so a good example of what you're saying now is, and it goes to what Don was asking. So if you see that phase 1 immediate step, so it says invest in industry aligned CTE post-secondary curriculum. A lot of them don't know what you just said, that they just have a set of standards. The curriculum can help, you can help develop that. And you should be, I mean, I know some CTE departments have boards and they have auxiliaries and maybe be a part of one of those to help develop that curriculum or give oversight. So I think that's kind of where we're at, is a lot of the businesses don't know a lot of this. That they just feel like, oh, someone gives them curriculum and it's not working for us. Well, get on a board or go talk to and see if you could help develop some of this. So interesting.
Yes. And that's also, this is an easier sell I have found. When I talk to industry, I'm not just trying to support JTED because CTE, but like they get it. If I'm like, build the program you want, make sure it delivers the skills you need. support it, help them find a teacher or train their teacher so that they know how to use the thing, right? They get it. They're like, oh yes, I see that as an immediate impact with a quick turnaround. Last mile supports also falls into that, and this is for basic needs, K-12, but especially at the post-secondary level. If you are 2 months away from earning your credential and your car blows up and you're going to lose it all, like that's a stupid reason, and that's it's expensive personally, it's not expensive globally for all that work to get flushed down the toilet. And so there's ways to do that. And again, that's a space that most districts and institutions have a structure for that kind of support. So it's an easy plug-in for a business partner. And then quality early childhood. And these are examples. This is not comprehensive. We can't, and I would love any feedback on this, the balance between being too particular and too broad. Because if you're just like engage with schools, that's too broad. And then of course advocacy, which is a really big piece of this, I think, and I approach this carefully because I understand that businesses. I'm not trying to pull anybody into one political agenda, except for the agenda of 90% of students go through, like that's your workforce pipeline. And so you need to make sure it's okay. Do whatever you want with everything else. Everything else should be okay too. But that basic pipeline needs to be sufficient. And then having a little bit of pay attention. These are the things you should be paying attention to. These are the things that if you understand that this is the most built out birth to work pipeline that we have is the education system. These are the things you should be paying attention to in that space. These are all sort of what can be done right now, low-hanging fruit, what helps immediately. The next one is more in system alignment. And one of the pieces of feedback I got from this group was this stuff actually needs to happen earlier. And I'll be the first one to say I fully agree. But this is where I need my industry folks to be like, because again, when I start saying you got to care about early literacy and these are the fundamentals. And if they're not in place, it doesn't matter anything else. Doesn't matter anything else you do if we don't have the fundamentals. Then they go, but I'm not a second grade tutor. So I balance between trying to be like, do we need to make that point better? Or do we need to just ease it in after we've built some trust? I don't know the answer to that. But this is about, again, continue to grow programs, create some articulated partnerships. That's a big one. The education space in Arizona tends to be very competitive for lots of reasons rather than collaborative. And with the birth dearth, you see a lot of districts that are literally like their fight for survival and involves stealing students from their neighbors. And it's hard, and everybody goes for bonds because nobody has enough funding, and so are we all competing. And so it is a long-term project to build stronger relationships that can result in win-win partnerships where everybody understands that we're all better off when we're all better off. That's the goal.
Meryl, on that topic, I believe you're in Pima County. Pima Community College has some great examples of success stories, and the one that comes to mind that could be a good analogy for what we're trying to do in Pinal County is the one that Habitat for Humanity worked with community college, trained up.
We lost Rena. No, maybe.
Rena, can you hear us?
She has volume issues every once in a while. I was going to say, Meryl, on this, if you're in 1 to 5 or 6 to 10, or even the third phase, if something can fit into the phase before, then I say
get it in there.
Yeah, put it in there. So this is just I think it's a good guideline. Now the challenge is, and I think somebody said it, is who owns this, and how do we make this part of our will to improve education?
When we were in the process of building this out, I reached out to the State Superintendent's Association, to Education Forward Arizona, to Arizona CTE, to ACCR, which is College and Career, Arizona College and Career Readiness, trying to map. A lot of people have a lot of like statewide agendas and 5-year visions and 20-year visions and whatever. And how do we map it all together? I don't want to be one sitting next to 900 other ones. If somebody else has got it, I want to use theirs. You know what I mean?
Sure.
How do we get everybody sort of reading from the same hymnal, marching to the beat, beat, etc. And I don't mean to say that this is perfectly that. It's like where we've gotten it to so far, but I don't think that anybody else would say, yes, the Canada Arizona Business Council Project Workforce is carrying the flag for our educational institution. What we have gotten is enough people saying, yes, this is strong and we would support it, and tweaking it and having their fingerprints on it to have there be, and I don't know if the answer is
Hey,
that
Joel,
it's this.
Joel, how do you guys, how does the superintendents, you guys work together? What do you,
Well, it's just that we have a Pinal County Administrators Association of Superintendents like ASA, but it's the local version. But I just personally, I think if you're trying to work all this through just the education, it doesn't work because, like we said, there's communication problems and everyone has their. I was thinking just in my head, and Joel Millman might have jumped off, but I know the Workforce Development Board, the workforce groups kind of straddle both ends, and they deal with the business and the industries, and then
That's true.
it's a little bit of both. That might be a thought partner, or even if it's just a convener of something. I just think on behalf of the workforce board, and I know we're going through some restructuring to be a little more strategic and be that convener. It be housed there in terms of that spine to work on this, because if you go just education, then you'll get into the same, we
Won't go
don't have
anywhere.
the talk with the industry partners. I think workforce board in itself kind of teeters on both training programs, education, early childhood even. I mean, I know they're proponents of down to early childhood to build that workforce. So that would be a suggestion that I would have is maybe we'll have more conversation with Joel and maybe the workforce board of maybe that could be the convener of.
There's several of us here that are on those workforce boards. I'm on the board now, just got put on here in this month, so.
Yep. So-
Joel, this is Joel.
Yep.
I agree. It's definitely something to look at, and this is something we may want to put on to present to the board, maybe in our April meeting, just to get it on the table. Since
Yeah.
we're, as Craig said, I think we have a number of folks on the call right here that have enough background to even guide that conversation.
Yep. I agree.
I have a question, if possible, Meryl. So sometimes listening to these things, I get slightly disheartened. But is there a piece in here specifically about having space for like a go-to person for these students? So background, youth workforce, I answer to this workforce board that Joel and Joel are discussing, and our numbers for persistence are much higher, but we know that's because they have someone to go to. When they see all these ideas, it can be overwhelming sometimes, or if they have a second thought, they have someone to talk to. If they change their mind, they have someone to talk to. If they hit a barrier, they have somebody to talk to. Like in all of these things, because parents are a piece, but they can't do it all. And as a former teacher, they can't do it all either. Is there somewhere in here where we can build in or ask for like just a go-to for these students to turn to? Our counselor to student ratio is insane, but I don't know if maybe that's not appropriate here, but that's the piece to me when I'm looking at getting things aligned and having success that is missing.
So to me, I would think that kind of an intervention is something that would come out of this other work. Like Like if I, as an industry partner, want to partner with you as a school, and I want to move the needle in these things that that I see as being important, and I say to you, what needs to happen for that? Then you say, give us a person, fund a position, right? But I would hesitate to. This is where I get, and this is just me. I'm just somebody, right? Like I don't have all the answers here. But if we put, to me, that feels like a very, very specific intervention that's more specific than I was aiming for. It doesn't mean it's not the answer, but it might be the answer in one school and not the other. Right? Somebody might have somebody like that and somebody else might not. One county might have somebody or the county superintendent's office has that person and they're doing great and so they're killing it. And so they know that's not what they would ask for. But a different county is like, oh my God, we're totally overwhelmed. There is not a position like that. Or is that something that exists at every school? Is it every district? I don't know the answers. So not no, but I would have more questions I can't speak intelligently about that solution at the level of detail that it needs to be sort of chewed on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
For sure.
but there's got to be a solution out there that I mean, even there's some stuff they used to do back in the day when I was in middle school. We had homeroom teachers, so you had like 20 kids, and you met for 15 minutes or 30 minutes in the morning with your homeroom teacher before you went to all your classes. And if you had questions, you asked your homeroom teacher. So it's not a new position. It's just a teacher that takes 15 minutes of their day and should know those kids by the end of the semester.
I think Logan has his hand up.
Yeah, I've been reserved soaking this all in, so I know why Greg wanted her on here so much. And Meryl, you're knocking it out of the park on everything I bitch about for the last couple of years. So, but I mean, there's a lot in this content. I think it's great. I think you're hitting all the wickets. I definitely appreciate your enthusiasm and your charisma in it. And then also, but in the business, because I'm currently a business leader, business decisions, I move millions on every decision I sign. It's ridiculous. So, but when I need something as a business, there will be a return on that investment. And the great example of that would be our Drive 48 that I believe Lucid put a lot of money into. It was very specific, it was very direct, and the entire college system is going to benefit from that when that program comes out. And that was very technical, direct. So when you talk about businesses funding and going into this, I believe they are capable and very willing. There has to be this end goal that's hard defined, because in business, if this end goal doesn't get defined, people lose their jobs. However, in government, when a program isn't successful, no politician loses their job, nobody gets fired, they just move on and keep doing whatever. And so there's a lot of different ways it's looked at, and I would leave my key point is, you tell a business owner that he needs to make this happen and he's going to create it and work with the business partners. I guarantee he's going to do it and he's going to see it to fruition. But education, I don't think they have the same goals in mind. And then also it's a systemic, I don't want to say it that way, but I mean, in the state of Arizona specifically, they are making requirements to teach less instead of more difficult and higher education. And they're also not paying more and more to bring that talent in. So it's like, when we talk about just the soft skills of reading, writing, and math, a business owner hiring a high school student expects them to be at this level. If they are not, who failed that person? And then why was that happening before that person even graduated? So those are some big tickets. Meryl, you are all over it. I love it. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole because I got plenty of them here, but I definitely appreciate the conversation, and it's a tough one to have.
There was a few people that are at a hard stop for 4. and they're probably going to jump off. But we do have a couple more questions, Meryl. I'm sorry we ran into the 4 o'clock hour, but I think Jay and Dawn had their hand up. So if you guys want to field a couple more questions, I don't know how you are on time, Meryl.
Loving this. This is the best part of my day.
And I'm
Thank
good
you,
too, Joel. I'm good too, Joel. I can hang on. So
And thanks, Joel, and thanks for you guys for having this conversation. I'm going to kind of go back to what like Logan was saying and some other folks too. One of the things that maybe some of us may be unaware of this, but NAU is leading the charge right now to reimagine high school. They've been pulling together special ed folks, gen ed folks, superintendents for the most part. It started with a group of 30 people in flying staff, and now it's well over 150 people coming together, going to the legislature and saying we need to revamp how we establish what high school looks like. The end goal way down the road is going to be like, all right, let's fix high school, then we'll go down and fix middle school, then elementary school. But we got to start, at the highest level, and that's their focus with that. I bring that up because they did come up with a state 48, what they imagine for every student to have when they walk out the door, which is just not reading, writing, and math, but also workplace readiness and job skills and things of that nature. And they're also looking at saying, how do we take science, social studies, and all these other curriculum and tie it to career choices for youth, so that way they care about math just as much as they care about science or social studies, whatever it may be. So it's a great conversation. I'm not sure if there's Pinal County schools in the room or not. They could be, and I don't know that. But I know that they've got representation from every county, and they've got folks all over the state, and we're part of there as a local first, as a nonprofit in workforce development. But there's other folks in the room too, and university people, college people, like I said, K-12 people, business people. So I don't know if it would behoove us to ask maybe in the future, have one of those representatives come here and saying, here's what we're already doing. How do we make this more localized in Pinal County as we're doing this at the state level? Because they've gotten some really good runway so far. And like I said, they've got the legislators' ears and they're listening to them. And they've got a lot of really high-powered people on that group. That is exactly this conversation.
Yeah, I did not know about that program. I am Googling it right now. Thank you for sharing that.
I don't know who had their hand up. There was one more question. Might have been Dawn.
Joe, I had put my hand up, but I took it down.
Oh, okay.
It was basically kind of piggybacking off of what we were saying about almost like a navigator to help students into college or through some of these decisions.
we've lost those navigators.
Exactly. And I think it is a missing piece, and seeing it either in here or somewhere as something to think about bringing back, because it made a significant difference. And I meet people all the time who were so excited about the Pinnell Promise scholarship, and then they found out in October of their first semester that they missed a step. And now they owe $2,000, the full tuition for the first semester, which they can't pay. And they can't enroll in the next spring semester because they have this outstanding balance. And so in the first semester of their first year of college, when they're so excited to take advantage of this opportunity, they end up $2,000 in debt and not finishing college. So having someone who could be there to help them navigate those steps and make sure that they're getting everything in to take advantage of the resources that are already there. I agree.
Probably didn't fill out their FAFSA form, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's always the one, right? FAFSA is a killer for everything.
Yep.
Yeah, you mean the one that wasn't available and wasn't working?
Yeah, that's
for the
one.
first
That's
3
the
months
one.
of the semester?
Yeah, that's the one.
That one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's happened for years, but that's a huge thing, and every scholarship program asks for it. So, even bringing together and coordinating some of the FAFSA support that's already available and making that more accessible to students. I don't know, but I loved that she brought up that navigator idea, or that idea of someone to help support.
Just now, if you can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
So here, this is our 1 through 5. This is fuzzy. This is not but like I added in here, we already said industry aligned curriculum development and programming and student support and navigation. Does
Yeah.
that feel like a thing
Yeah,
that we want to say you should support this?
yes,
Okay.
that's perfect. I had just added, as a target lower student to counselor ratio,
It is.
but you got the same
Astounding.
thing there. That's fine.
Katrina has a question.
No, I just had a real life example of issues. I have a junior at Higley High School, and I got 10,000 emails about the career and, college fair that was going to happen right during baseball practice, which he can't miss. It's like they don't think when they time these things. It would have been a great opportunity for him to go, but he would have caught holy heck for missing practice. So he can't. So just a real life example of we've got a lot of work to do to help support our. I made a comment about a tax write-off. He goes, I don't know what that is. I was like, yep, because we don't teach you how to do your taxes, how to balance a checkbook, what an interest rate is. So yeah. Anyway,
Well,
thank you for the work you're doing, Meryl.
Our career expo is going to be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., so it shouldn't interfere with anybody's baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a checkbook, Katrina?
I know. Balance your app.
Sorry, just had to throw that in there.
Years.
What's a check?
I just dated myself. Sorry.
Well,
I will say one of the things that we're looking for to add on to this is some, I don't want to say case studies. No one is going to read these. No one's going to read the long version of this, but is there like a Cliff's Notes version of like, Katrina did a program, she had 7 people, it all worked, like that kind of thing, some examples. And we have a couple. I have a really great example of one of the things that I try and tell industry folks is like, no one is saying that you're not in the business of doing business. Be in the business of doing business. But for the larger businesses out there, you all have corporate social giving and you're already doing this work, and you should look to tying the things that you fund into things like early childhood, early literacy, early numeracy, right? Like solve for both. And so I have some great examples of like that kind of language you can put in your program. And I have examples locally of cool businesses doing cool things. But if we want this to represent more than just Pima County, if you guys have good examples, please send them my way that we can be like, I mean, just little, but like,
Hey, Meryl, what
Joel
if you
did it, Craig did it.
What if you took your PowerPoint presentation and then you know how you can put notes in your PowerPoint, and those would be the notes. So if somebody wants to read it, they can, or if they want to go to a footnote or a link to read an article, they can.
I love that. I love that. But
And
if you
Meryl-
have examples, send them my way.
Yeah, and what like an example, one of the things Joel mentioned when we first took a look at this before we invited you to come clarify, which helped me a lot, is some of the things that are already being done, like you're saying, trying to capture those. Because what was eye-opening for me is that this is meant for the business and industry folks to kind of help for that to engage them into this process. And so I saw in a couple of them that there's things already going on that it just have to be communicated. So you're in Pima, right? So you're familiar with Community Share, Josh Schachter's Business and Industry Connection platform. We're going to bring that to Pinal County
Very cool.
next year, starting in August. And one of them, if you look at one of yours, I think it was in year 6 to 10, is engage middle school or engage industry into middle school career exploration. Again, if that program's there, it's not like you have to create anything. It's something that the school office is supporting, and it's just a matter of making them aware so that they could tell their staff, hey, sign up for Community Share and you can go help in the classrooms whenever they need you or whatever it is, whether it be through policy or on their days off or however it is. So I think that's the part that was eye-opening for me, and I really like the slide. Can you share your slide, even those 3 little slides you had?
Sure.
With this group, because I really like the slide on how way you framed it. It's very, I like the way it's framed toward the industry partners in a way that's, hey, this is kind of what our ask is, and it's framed
That's what we're
pretty
trying to do.
concise.
Yes, the audience for this is definitely an industry audience. And then sort of the secondary audience, I think related, is the economic developers in the room, right?
Yep.
And then after that, you get into like maybe legislators, maybe, but the audience for this is not mostly education because they can't even call you back, right? If somebody shows up and is like, I heard you need A, B, and C, we'd like to try it. They're gonna go, oh, God.
So yeah, if you could send us those slides, we'd
Yes.
appreciate it. And I think you already shared this draft with Craig, so we might have this already. But if you
So
want to,
I'll resend it. Easy brief. Yeah.
And then
Yeah, if you
another
want to
thing
send
is,
send it to me and to Rena, and we'll make sure we get it out to everybody.
Perfect.
and then also one other thing is this is being recorded, Merrill, and we're gonna put it on the Pinnell Partnership. It goes every month on the Pinnell Partnership
Website.
under Business and Education Committee. That way, if you want to refer back to it, if you had any questions
Okay.
or if you didn't write something down fast enough on the questions we had, maybe you could refer back to it. It's going to be recorded.
I love it.
Hey,
Okay.
Merrill, and have you thought, like, the graphic, that first one, how much talent can we afford to lose? That's such an impactful slide. It's almost like it needs to be first. Like it's the first thing you talk about under project workforce. You put project workforce, and then boom, there's the slide. And how, because then that sets up everything else that you talk about.
Okay. I like that. Thank you for that.
So this is Rena, Craig, and Merrill. When we're talking about next steps, and Joel and I've worked really hard to try to get more of our, great business partners like Logan to participate in this conversation on this committee. What if since all of this kind of got stirred up because of the Arizona Canada group, Hudson or Hudbay, is that Hudbay Minerals?
Hudbay mining or minerals, yeah.
Yes. So Hudbay Minerals, the big news in Pinal County last week was that they're acquiring Arizona Sonoran Copper. So now we've got a Canadian-based mining company that's huge that's coming to Pinal County.
Well,
Is there an opportunity to get them into this conversation to talk about some real world examples of how we might be able to move some of this forward?
Rena,
We know
I think
Hudbay.
Resolution Copper is also Canadian.
Florence Copper is.
Yeah.
They have a lot.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
thing, and the reason I'm bringing that up is Joel knows, we've been having this discussion about mining and workforce development and early childhood. It's all connected, and we've got all these mining companies that are here that we need to get, around the table and talk about these things. They're off just kind of doing, their own things, and they're in different stages of development. So I can understand why, they're kind of keeping things close to the vest. But if we could pick one of them out that is most responsive and start talking about these things, because I've been trying to pull U of A in with their mining program. And again, we know these programs already exist. The problem is we're not getting to the right people, connecting to the right people from each discipline to get the right people around the table, say, how do we get a dry 48 going for the mining industry?
We have some strong connections with the Arizona Mining Association, with Hudbay, with Freeport Nasarca. I would be delighted you and I should talk offline, and I see if I can't put you in touch with them, specifically through the Arizona Mining Association, which is like a trade group, right? There's a bunch of them, and they're all members, and they all sort of pay in, but they have a major focus on workforce development and outreach.
Yeah, and part of my
So they
ulterior
have
motive here,
some
Meryl,
things that they would if they would love to be doing more of.
part of my ulterior motive is I think U of A needs to get with the program and have a presence in Pinal County with regard to the mining program. And so, I'm hoping that these conversations will lead to something like that, because right now they're saying, oh yeah, we've got that in Chandler, and we've got that here, and we've got that there. And when you look at what is going on and how much we are going to have invested in the next 20 years in mining, We're already behind the curve in terms of getting programming going that is convenient to our local talent pool. They don't have to go to Maricopa County. They don't have to go to Tucson. It should be right here in Pinal County.
And
I can also, and I don't want to, oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting somebody.
no,
Joel?
go ahead.
Well, so in the world of career and technical education, there is a rumor that is yet to be confirmed that they're going to add an entire career cluster to the list of approved programs. And all that means is that it's easier for a school to start a program if it's already on the approved list.
Right.
And that cluster is around natural resources, and there is a program in it that is specifically resource extraction. I mean, it's mining. It is a CTE class on mining.
Nice.
And we are looking at that because there's a lot of jobs in our part of the state too. But if that goes forward, it will make it easier for CTE classes to have a very targeted program, which will bring in the industry support because there's like a place for them to land. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a front door if it gets there.
Yeah, because that's always been a challenge when we tried to do something for Lucid, try to get a CTE program. It didn't exist, so you have to go to the State Board of Education, and that's like a 2-year process to get it included on the list. So we just went right to CAC instead. So that's how we avoided it.
Dawn, I feel like your hand has been up for a long time.
Yeah, Joe, I just have a quick question. I have the goals. Did you want those to send out before the next meeting?
Yeah,
or?
just send them to me because I'm compiling them. I think we got most of them already, and we'll do them. We'll talk about them at our next meeting. But if you had them done, send them to me,
Okay.
and I'll
Sounds
consolidate
good.
them all. Well, Meryl, thank you. And we did have industry partners, a couple more other than Logan. Thank you, Logan, for joining. I will let them know because they did reach out and said they couldn't make it. But if we needed anything, I'll send them the link to the recorded also. Just let them know that, we'd like some feedback from them as well. Megan Rose from Siemens and also Resolution Copper weren't able to make it today, but they're usually on this committee. So I'll send them the link.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to hear from you and the more fingerprints we get on this, the better, to make it stronger. And I just really appreciate you guys and the work you're doing. Pinal is doing amazing things. And I'm excited to be able to talk to you about it.
Yeah, we are too. Thanks, Meryl. And please don't be a stranger. We'll continue to communicate because I think we can do some great things with all this. So
thank you. All
Appreciate
right,
you guys.
thank you all. And then if you
Thank
can
you.
send those slides to either Craig or me, whoever, and we'll get them out to the committee and also the draft.
Perfect. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Meryl.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. And I guess for us, we're way over time, so we'll see you next month for the rest of the committee, but that's okay. It was a great conversation and it will be recorded. I'll send you the recording, Rena, so you can
Sounds
post it.
good. Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.